that.
All right, Stephen A. is here with us. Stephen, let's start with you. Does it end tonight?
I believe so. I believe that Cleveland basically emptied their chamber in Game 3. The LeBron playing is the way that he played, Kyrie playing the way that he played, and somehow, some way, the Golden State Warriors still managed to pull this out because of the greatness of Durant and Curry. And Klay Thompson obviously had a big-time game as well. I just think that, what I saw in terms of body language and beyond, it just gives that veneer, that appearance. Obviously, Cleveland could sit up there and show some guts, and Golden State could be a bit lackadaisical, but I don't get that impression at all. I think that they want to go 16-0 in the postseason, and I think they desperately want it to be at the expense of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I anticipate that it will end tonight. I'll be happy if it doesn't, but I think I find it hard to believe that Cleveland can come back from that Game 3 loss. I just don't see it happening.
And I agree with you. I hope it doesn't. I think it does as well. So when it does end, it's going to, whether it's tonight or the next game or whatever, when Golden State wins this series, what in your mind will be the fallout for both teams? What will we be saying about Golden State and Kevin Durant, and what will we be saying about Cleveland and LeBron James?
Well, what we're going to be saying about the Golden State Warriors is that they're a great team. They're in the conversation to be one of the greatest teams ever. We're going to talk about the superstar that Kevin Durant has emerged as, even though I always have believed that he is, which is why I had such a huge, huge problem with him going and joining the team that beat him in the Western Conference Finals last year, because he wasn't some average player or some glue piece or anything like that. This is one of the top 2 players on the planet as far as I'm concerned. So for him to already join the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball, I just thought was pretty much unfair. And I think that we're seeing it come to fruition and really have that point proved. We'll be talking about Golden State in that light. But ultimately, you're not going to be able to take anything away from Kevin Durant because he's the best player on the best team, and he's performed better than anybody on the biggest stage. And so he's validated his greatness. I think in that regard, that's what you say about them. As it pertains to the Cleveland Cavaliers, obviously they've got to go back to the drawing board because everything is about being able to beat whoever the champion is. And in this case, it would be the Golden State Warriors. And clearly as a team, as presently constructed, they're not going to be able to do it. They're going to have to go out there in the offseason, whether it's a Paul George or Carmelo Anthony or whomever. They're going to have to get an additional piece to what they have in order to be able to compete legitimately with the Golden State Warriors. And we'll also be talking about LeBron. And I know that you guys have a problem with it. Love y'all both, but I don't care. The bottom line is very, very clear. All of this conversation about him being the GOAT officially comes to an end. As far as I'm concerned, it was never the case because it was always Michael Jordan, but it definitely will have that fact cemented now because he'd have this sweep on his resume that would end that conversation in my mind.
Well, you know what? We love you too, but we don't care that you disagree with us as well. So I guess that's the way this relationship works. There's love and not really caring whether you agree with us or not. Because here's why that doesn't bother me, Stephen A. Because we all know that when he took that 2007 Cavs team, that was the worst team in the history of basketball to get to a finals.
Yeah.
Right.
He's averaging a triple-double this series. And in that Game 3 loss, when he was on the floor for 46 minutes, they were +7. In the 120 seconds that he took off, they were -12.
They're -12.
I mean, what can a guy get to 120 seconds without his team completely falling apart?
That's fair, but let me go back. Let me challenge you guys from this perspective because I know you guys know sports. You can look at it from a numbers perspective and stop there. I don't. I am not holding the San Antonio Spurs final against him at all. You can hold Dallas against him, however. There is no doubt about that. And you definitely would be able to hold this one against him. When you talk about a conversation about the GOAT, the greatest of all time, there's no insult by saying that you're not that, even though you're everything else. You're just saying that that's not a Michael Jordan-esque kind of thing. Because 6 NBA Finals MVP, never allowing a series to get to a Game 7, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all the things on his resume. Of course, you can talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when you're talking about the greatest, but I'm thinking about big men, and I put them in a separate category. When you look at LeBron, however, getting back to him, not only is he on the verge of getting swept in these finals, fellas, I would ask you to remember how it is happening. The person he is defending, the person he is going against, happens to be a dude by the name of Kevin Durant, who's averaging 34, 10, and 6, shooting 56% from the field, 52% from three-point range. And by the way, he is also scoring during money time, outscoring LeBron James 31-11 in the fourth quarter. Now, listen, I don't know about y'all, but when I think about champions and I think about the GOAT, I think about folks who show up in pressurized moments. The ball is in their hand. When everything breaks down, everybody knows what the other person is going to do, and they look you in your face and they say, what you going to do about it?
No,
and in the end, that is what Kevin Durant has done. And to me, that is why that ends that conversation.
Well, look, I'm not saying he was going to be the GOAT anyway. I'm going to go with Jordan, but I don't think anything in this series is the reason that that's the case. And by the way, I love the fact that you didn't want to talk numbers and you just spewed a bunch of numbers on Kevin Durant. So I do appreciate that. But hold on, I'll let you go. Hold, let me just say this, and then we'll allow the floor to resume. Okay. Look, the idea that Michael Jordan made every big shot is simply not true. He passed it off to Paxson, he passed it off to Kerr. So that has something to do with this as well. I just don't think anything in this series would be the reason he's not the GOAT, because the Showtime Lakers were a pretty good team. They got swept. Dan Marino, some people still think he's the greatest quarterback of all time. His last playoff game he lost 62-7. I don't think people are thinking that's the reason he isn't.
Well, I'm here for you, Trey. I'm here for you. Here's the deal.
And I appreciate it.
Tell me one time. And I know you do. Here's the deal. First of all, I never said that Michael Jordan always took the last shot. Of course, he gave it to Paxson.
No, I think people just don't realize that sometimes.
That's fair. But what I would respond to you is this. Michael Jordan goes up against Magic Johnson and win his first championship. We all saw what he did to Clyde Drexler and those boys in Portland for his second championship. He beats Barkley for his third championship. He beats Karl Malone and John Stockton for 2 more. And in between that, he beat Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. Every single individual challenge that Michael Jordan faced, he answered the bell. Now, LeBron has been underdog before. He's overcome tremendous odds. He beat Kevin Durant when he was a baby. Remember, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook were 23 when they played in the finals 6 years ago. Serge Ibaka and James Harden was 22. Reggie Jackson was 21. They were all on the same team, but they were babies. He goes up against Dirk. You saw what happened. He goes up against San Antonio, played well. Ray Allen comes save the day. The next year, Kawhi Leonard steps up. They're the MVP. He doesn't have help because Kevin Love gets hurt in the postseason, and then Kyrie goes down in Game 1 of the NBA Finals when he lost 2 years ago when Golden State won. But Iguodala was the MVP. And then last year, he balled out. He was absolutely sensational. But you look at it from the perspective that I'm grabbing, is that at some point in time, your individual greatness, because that's what we're talking about, is defined by moments. It's defined by a challenge you're being faced against. When you're going up against Steph Curry, you're not really guarding him. He's not really guarding you. Okay? When you're going up against Tim Duncan, the same applied. When you were going up against Dirk, the same applied. This is really the first time that LeBron James has went against somebody perceived to be somewhere in the vicinity of being on his level. And even though he's answered the bell with numbers, that other dude has answered it with numbers while they've been guarding each other. And, oh, by the way, unlike LeBron, he's not fading in the fourth quarter. Now, in fairness to LeBron, he doesn't have as much help. He's probably fatigued. Nobody needs to excoriate him because of that. But the reality is that Kevin Durant walked into this series saying he's the king, he has the crown, I'm coming for his crown and the NBA crown. And he is in the process of taking it. And you know what we have as a backdrop for LeBron James, fellas? We have him starting off the series before one game was played saying, I don't even want to answer any questions about the Golden State Warriors because it's too stressful. That's a quote. That's a quote from LeBron. It's too stressful to deal with to start off the series, and then during the series when they asked him was he tired, he said, hey, I'm averaging a triple-double. I'm just fine. So in other words, I'm getting my numbers. I'm doing my thing. I don't know what the hell the rest of these guys are doing. Fellas, That's not what champions do.
Well,
You and I both know it.
I'm going to tell you the best part of this conversation was the fact that normally you're tweeting in, busting me on something I said, and you and I go back and forth. Trey's jumping in here, so I'm going to love the future of this. That both of us. This is great. No, I love it.
To be fair, all that sounds great. None of this was, I mean, he was not the GOAT anyway. I don't think anything in this series changes that perspective one way or the other. We got to go, Stephen.
Oh,
we
I love
appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.